an emotional experience, but so is this. One of the biggest emotional attachments some of us have is with our home, and making decisions on if and when to sell can become really clouded. So Money Sense and Scotiabank have partnered up to make it easier on you. Here to make us see it clearly from Money Sense, we've got Bruce Sellery. Okay, our houses, most of us, this is our biggest asset. This is the thing, this is the nest egg, but most people don't want to live in one place forever. So how do we even start thinking about whether or not we should move?
Huge financial stakes, huge emotional stakes. Here's how you start. You do a pro-con chart. Okay. Now, I'm a bit of a master at these. I brought the pro-con charts that I have been developing since the 90s, the early 90s. So I have the one for our most recent house, our car, the summer job that I took in university. I even have the pro-con chart. It's very brief on whether or not I should get married.
You're kidding me!
Yeah. I'm not going to show it to you.
Well, on the con side, I just saw nagging.
Yeah, nagging was on the cons. I'm going to get nagged.
I'm not going to tell
But you know, it was totally worth it. There are lots of pros on that front. So pro-con charts, and the magic of a pro-con chart is bringing together the head and the heart. Because it's really two things. Anyone who says it's purely a rational decision has been smoking something that may not be legal in the place that they live.
Right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be an emotional attachment.
Absolutely.
This is a lot of money. There are a lot of memories. There's a lot of everything. Okay, so you start with your pro and con chart.
Yes.
And then what do you do next? How do you do the pro and con chart?
You pick a path. So I've got a list of my 5 tips. There's not 4. There's not 6, there's 5. Number 1 is pick a path. It doesn't matter which one you choose. So you could say, I'm going to move to a new house, or you could say, I'm going to renovate my current house. Okay. And then you're going to, second thing is you're going to list all the pros and cons. Everything. The house, the style of it, the state of repair, the size, local amenities, the population of the kids. You're going to list the hassle. So for some people, moving is a big hassle. For some people, renovating or redecorating is a big hassle.
Right.
Distance to work, to transit, all those kinds of things. The community. Do I want to get the hell out of Dodge? Right. Or do I want to stay with these families forever because I love them? And then there's the cost. So there's the ongoing costs of the mortgage payment and the property taxes, which could be higher and could be lower. And then there's the one-times. So real estate commissions, lawyers' fees, moving trucks. And I don't know anyone who's ever moved and not repainted something, right? So you're going to move and you're going to want to do something. So you can list all those elements in one of 2 places, pros and cons.
Okay, so you've thought about your pros and cons. You've thought about the cost. You have to think about all that stuff, like the amount you pay just to move. Then you also have to start thinking about like mortgages and all of that.
And this is where the great advisors have an enormous role to play, because there is an amount that you qualify for, that you are approved for, and then there's the amount you can afford. And they're not the same amounts. And the reason is, with that bigger picture, and they'll help you walk through this, is you need to factor in things like retirement savings, education savings, emergencies. The audience went quiet there. You need to factor all these kinds of things in there, including your lifestyle. So do you have car payments? Do you like to take a vacation? Because you don't want to have made the decision and realize after the fact that you've become house poor, right? So you have to factor all that in and make sure that you make that choice with your eyes wide open, having looked at all those costs.
So I mean, you can see now there are so many young couples coming into neighborhoods and they're saying, I can buy that house for $2.8 million. Yeah. And you're thinking, how do you do that?
Who are your parents?
Could I be in your family long enough to have that much money?
Yeah.
But that's because what you are approved at is not necessarily what you can afford.
Yes.
It's not necessarily what you have in your pocket, right?
And it's a very subjective thing, what you can afford. So you need to be a temporary expert when it comes to mortgages. Basically, you do them every 5 years or so, so focus on it. The 3 things that the person who you're working with will help you think through is, what are the scenarios that my life could happen in my life over the next 5 years? Am I going to want a parental leave of some sort? Do I think I might change jobs for a higher or lower income? Might I move? That's important, because as you think about the mortgage that fits for you, there are different options you can choose. So you can choose a payment vacation, or you can choose lump sum payments. So if you're going to break your mortgage, if you feel that's a strong risk, you need to factor in what the penalties are going to be. So you need to think about all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the rate that you're going to choose that makes the most sense and fits with your comfort level, right? Sometimes adjustable versus fixed really is a psychological decision more than a mathematical one.
Do you also have to say to yourself, interest rates might go up?
They might. They might. You need to factor that in.
And you have to be able to be okay with that.
Yes, and because my payment may be locked for 5 years or for a period of time, and then things change. I want to come back to my list, because here's the other magic of the pro-con chart, is you look at how you can minimize the cons. So sometimes people say, listen, my current home, it's a lack of space. So one way to address that is to move. Another way is to say, you know what, I'm going to rent a room at the community center twice a year for $1,000. So I'm still hosting Christmas. I'm just hosting it down the street. Or I'm going to factor in 10 nights of hotels for the parents when they come to stay, instead of having a guest room that I'm going to have to pay for. So you go through the cons and you think, how can I minimize that con? Next step on my list is to prioritize the pros and cons. They rank in different orders. So your most important pros, the top 2 or 3, the most important cons, the top 2 or 3, those are the ones that are really, really relevant. When we were buying our house, one of the cons I had was the home inspection said we'd have to replace the furnace at some point. So I was like, we can't buy that house because I can't buy a furnace. Which doesn't really make sense, because what you do to minimize it is you say, we need the, whatever that's going to cost, you need to factor that into the financials.
That's right. Okay, so you've minimized your cons, you've prioritized the entire list. Then what?
I love this step. This is the best step. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, don't choose based on pros and cons. Choose after pros and cons. It is an emotional decision. So you're going to do all this analysis. You're going to do all this thinking. You're going to have all these conversations. And then you know what you're going to do?
What?
Just choose.
Just choose.
You're just going to choose. You're just going to choose. It might be great. It might not be great. But that's kind of life. So I really want to encourage people to remember that this is an emotional purchase for a lot. If it was only based on the head, we make different decisions. It's not. It's the place where you live. So do all the thinking. Do all the analyzing. Leap into the abyss and choose.
Yes, there's always a little bit of gut and heart and all of that involved. And that's okay. Bruce, good tips. Thank you for that.